What's going on, y'all? So last year when 2.5 came out, I did a video showing 25 of the new features in 2.5. Now that we have 2.6, I'm doing a video showing 26 of the new features in Studio One 2.6. So to start things off, they've got a dynamic resizing of the start page items. Haven't really figured out what that was, because everything looks mostly the same to me except for the now we've got a SoundCloud widget and a Nimbit widget. We'll see as time goes on if I figure out what that is. Uploading on Nimbit now by default is a WAV file. Don't know what it was before, but it's pretty good that it's a WAV file because that's really what you want it to be anyway. Studio Live and Capture now in 2.6, you can import your session from Capture, including the fader levels, pan, the fat channel. I believe that only works with the AI, with the new mixers. We also have extended hardware controller support, adding better integration with Mackie Control and Huey controllers. So that's really nice. Let's get into some of the stuff inside a session now. Okay, so inside a session now, one of the big new additions is the fat channel, which is the channel strip from the Studio Live mixers. I've played with this briefly, and in my brief time with it, it's really nice. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up replacing the channel strip in Studio One. The performance monitor window now, it has, it now shows the correct on and off state. So I don't know what this really did before. If I believe that when you bypassed a plugin, it didn't show it here, but now you see if I bypass this plugin, it'll bypass it under the devices. So that's new. Also, let's look at the other really big one is the Metrodome enhancements. So Presonus is calling this Metrodome 2.0. And one of the first things you'll notice is you now got pre-roll control here. You have the option to record with a pre-roll. You have the option to store and load, or you have the option to save your presets, save the click as a preset. And you've got eight additional samples now. You can add your own sample, which is really nice. Thinking about doing an MPC click one, because we all love the MPC. And I'm sure somebody will beat me to it before I can get to it. Also new in the Metrodome now, you can render a Metrodome track. So you can, well, let's do it to, I have a loop set up here. Let me set up a loop real quick. And render for the loop. And you can see, I guess it didn't click loop, but, oh yeah, I did. So yeah, it rendered a click track, an audio track now for the Metrodome track. That's really nice to have. And lastly, on the Metrodome, you now have a visual representation countdown. If you look in this area here, I've got the pre-count on set to 1 bar, and if I hit record, you'll see it count down here. Now, moving on to a really big one here that I'm surprised didn't bug me more, but now when you have a plugin open, the focus stays on Studio One. So what that means, let me find where I put that fat channel. We'll just add it again. Okay, so before when you had a plugin open and you hit space bar to play, it wouldn't play. You would have to come back and click on the click in the arrange to get the focus back on Studio One to play. Now with the plugin open, you can hit play and it'll still play. This didn't bother me as much because I use a fader port, so I'm always hitting play on that, which would have played it regardless. So the next one is the bounce to a new track. So let's see if we can do this with a instrument track. Option Command B, I believe. That's it. So the Option Command B is now bounce to a new track, which is something I had a macro created for. But what it does is it takes your takes the original track, takes all the plugins on it, bounces it down to a new track, and creates a new track for that, and muting the original. Event effects can now be applied to multiple events at once. So I'll take this click track and make a couple of events, and we'll duplicate it to a new track. Select these 4 events, and you can see I can now apply the same event effect to multiple events. And now on by default is the layers follow events, which you can see in the inspector over here on the left. So what that is if you had an event that had layers under it, or multiple recordings for it, now if you copy that down in the session, the layers would follow it. It's really good that that's now on by default, because that's something that you would normally want on by default. There is now a key command for the channel editor, which is F11 on Mac. So let's take this click track for example. So I got 3 plugins on it. If I do the F11, pulls up the plugins on that track, and now the channel editor remembers what's the last one you were on. So let's say I was using the fat channel on this track. Let's go down to the second click track, and let's just throw a limiter on it. So let's say I was tweaking this limiter, and then I go back to the click track. Let's see if I can get to go back to it without opening the plugin. There we go. So I'm back on the click track, and the plugin's closed. The F11, and it opens back up the last plugin I had. So the channel editor is a quick way to get to the plugins that you have on a certain track. And there is also a new link button has been added to the strip silence. So what that is, let's pull up the strip silence. Where is it? Here we go. You'll see this link button here, so you can now link the fade in to your pre-roll and post-roll time. Merging of instrument parts now. When you merge instrument parts, it selects that event. So let's take, for example, these 3, and let's say I wanted to merge them, which is G. It now leaves that event selected. Now let's talk about groups. Some changes that they made in grouping is when you dissolve a group, it's going to deselect all the tracks but the first one. So to show this, let's create a group. And now when I dissolve the group or cancel the group, which is Shift Command G, you see it leaves just the first track, selected. Not sure what it did before, and I haven't really seen how that's going to really be handy yet, but this next one is really handy, which is now when you remove a track from a group, it deselects that track. So let's put those tracks in a group again, and now let's say the second one I didn't want in the group, I can select none, and it's going to deselect that track. Now, I do know before it did leave the track selected, and I'd have to click off of all the tracks to get that track back selected, which was pretty annoying. So that's a really good feature added there. You can now drag and drop effect chains to the send slot. So let's take this click 2. Let's grab an effects chain. Let's just take mastering, analyzing, and if I drag it to the send, you can see it now creates an effect channel with the name of that effects chain. I got the analyzing effects chain here, and you see it named the effects channel the same thing. And finally, lastly, we have enhanced tempo resolution. So Presonus is saying now that the song tempo and tempo changes are now accurate to 1/10,000th of a beat. So if you got basically better and more accurate tempo there. But all right, there y'all go. That's 26 of the new features in Studio One 2.6. All right, catch y'all next time.